Welcome, everybody. We are here today with the one and only Hank Nuwer. He is author of Chapter 4 of our new book. This, of course, is our new book, From Letters to Leaders. His chapter 4, is called Don't Haze the Newcomers, Mentor Them. And of course, Hank is the author of many, many books, author of Hazing, Destroying Young Lives, Wrongs of Passage, High School Hazing, and The Hazing Reader. His blog, Hazing Prevention, is part of his website, hanknewer.com. And of course, he keeps a record of hazing deaths at schools since the first death in 1838. So he's got a lot of history in working through all of this. And his most treasured awards include hazingprevention.org's Hank Nuwer Anti-Hazing Award. He's got the honorary State University of New York honorary doctorate, and of course, the election to the Ball State University Journalism Hall of Fame. And my favorite part about Hank is that he's been described as one of the nation's foremost authorities on hazing in the Missouri Historical Review by Patrick Huber and Stephen Foster. So it is always a pleasure catching up with you, Hank. Welcome to our audience. Great talking to you today.
Always a pleasure, Mike.
Always a pleasure. So I did want to talk to you about this new book. You know, we've been taking some time to kind of work through all the authors of the book and their chapters. And you've written so many books. I mean, you're usually working on 3 books at any one particular time, which I can't even imagine keeping all of that straight. I don't know how you do it, to be quite honest with you. And I'm sure it was slightly different for you to author a chapter instead of a full book that you're usually working on, and then work with all the other authors and coming together for this one collaboration effort. So I'm wondering, what did you think when the new book arrived in the mail, From Letters to Leaders, Creating Impact on Your College Campus and Beyond? I mean, what kind of things were you thinking about when you actually held the book?
Well, I think it's exciting to have a collaboration of professionals at any time. And I give you credit for the idea and for the great essays that people submitted. But I think what I liked the best would be the first person stories that were in the book.
Yeah.
Read that, thumbing through. And of course, a little bit of vanity. Of course, I went to my chapter first. Disclosure. But then I went through all the others, and I really enjoyed, and I learned things about our team that I didn't know.
Yeah.
So I was excited.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that is what most people say when they come back to me and they tell me a little bit about the book and what they thought is, you know, they'll say that I've known this person or this person, the various authors that we have in the book, but it just catches them off guard because they learn new things that they had no idea about in this particular book. So that gets to know, I guess, a different side of some of these people. And I think it's written a little bit less academic and more about the first person stories. And I think that's what makes it kind of interesting. That's what makes it a quick read. That's what makes it something that college students want to get through because it's enjoyable. Obviously, we're talking about the problems that exist on college campuses and some solutions to them. But I think it's an enjoyable read. It's a real page turner. And hopefully everyone who reads it feels the same way.
Yeah, for me, it's like a collection of letters.
Yeah.
It has that nice, easygoing, but confidential sort of voice. And each of the authors has a different voice, but when you put it all together, it's almost like a stew. You know, we've got the vegetables, we've got the meats, we've got the marinade, and it all came together very nicely. There's a little bit of a foodie there.
I like that comparison to a stew. I think it's very fitting, actually, when I think about making something like a stew, for example, and then putting all of these voices together in one comprehensive book. I think that was kind of the challenge for me is how do you make it consistent? I think having a word count that is identical for each of the chapters certainly helps, but then you kind of have to do some editing work to make that voice seem somewhat consistent among 13 different writers, which is no easy task. I can promise you that. But it was fun. I mean, it was a fun process, and I'm looking forward to book number 2. That's on the down low, but book number 2 is going to be coming out at some point later in 2021. So we're really excited about that. Now, Now, what was your inspiration for writing your chapter? Don't haze the newcomers, mentor them. Tell us more about your thoughts as you were putting together this idea for your chapter.
Well, for me, mentoring started because I had been with Inside Sports and Men's Fitness for quite a while as contributing writer. And often what came up in conversations with interviews, and not trying to drop names, but everything from Bo Jackson at that time to top coaches like Joe Paterno, whose end of his career I lament, and so sadly, but they all talk about their influences and that they couldn't have gotten where they are without that kind of guidance. And I thought about it a lot, and I had so many older people uh, help me along the way, whether it's in athletics, academics, school. So I tried to give this back as a teacher. And I would say that I'm very, very proud of the people that I've mentored. Yesterday, Gary Eller, one of a former student who then went on for his MFA at the University of Iowa, creative writing, had his book out, True North. And yeah, I'm as proud of it as I am of our book here, that a student has come out with the book. So for me, one of the sadder things is talking to friends, particularly females, by the way, who say they never had a mentor. But they always wanted one, and they felt they had to struggle against the glass ceiling, whatever you call it, without help and assistance. So I hope that this is a valuable chapter. And then the idea for me was mentoring can occur in a fraternity. And instead of hazing the pledges, what they will remember is that you, the senior member, took a pledge under your arm and you guided that person.
Mhm.
And it can be fun too. In my classes, teaching a river runs through it, I had one of the students who was an expert fly fisherman teach us all to tie flies. And then we had to go out and fish. Now, one of them told me that making them cast is a form of hazing, and I told them to get lost, but they made me do it too. So, and my wife, Gosha, joined the class, which was fun, and she did better than all the athletes. Why? She's never played baseball, so she was able to keep her wrist straight. So, long and the short of it is, I think that this can be a good thing for fraternity chapters, and one of the positives as we try to eradicate hazing.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I like that. And, I agree. I've had some wonderful, wonderful mentors that have helped me get to this point. I think about guys like David Westall. I think about guys like Pete Smithheisler with the NIC, longtime CEO of the NIC. And, these people have really helped me out a great deal in my career and have been a sounding board whenever I had questions. And I view the fraternity experience really the same way. When we think about big brothers, when we think about big sisters, this is somebody that you should be able to lean on. If you're going through a tough time, that you'd be able to have a conversation with them, somebody you can ask questions, somebody that's a trusted confidant, and somebody who can guide you. It's kind of like that guide in the river when you are fly fishing, right? Somebody who knows how to do this already. Hopefully that the students will read your chapter and they'll come to understand what their role is as a mentor, as a big brother, as a big sister. And I think those relationships ultimately will last much longer than just the 4-year college experience. I think those types of relationships last a lifetime. And that's what's kind of beautiful about
And
fraternity and sorority.
And a point that I wanted to make is that my mentor from Buffalo State College first took his classes in '65. Why? Because he was a faculty member in my fraternity.
Mm.
And I thought he'd be an easy prof because he signed my plaque so easily and so nicely. One of the toughest teachers I ever had. And on the first day of class, I flirted with Sue Paterno and he moved my chair to the front. It got a lot better after that. I worked hard because he had an award for best contemporary literature student for the paper, and I managed to win that. And I was so excited. My dad called me over to say your name's in the paper. And I thought, uh-oh, because the time before he called me, I had a speeding ticket. But he was so proud of this award also. I stayed in touch with this professor until his death at age 100. And at 98, I have the copy here. We did a book together called One Long Conversation. That's myself and Drew midway through our friendship. And that, I would say he was one of the very positive ones as a fraternity brother. He would come to our spaghetti dinners. We all, not just pledges, made the spaghetti. We served it. You could drink that time at 18, so we had glasses of wine. And then each of the faculty brothers gave us some words of advice. And I've done the same thing as a faculty member with Sigma Nu over at Franklin College and gone to their supper. And I think it's a very positive kind of thing.
Yeah, I love it. And the other thing I wanted to talk to you about too is Hazing has been in the news quite a bit this spring, and usually you're the one who I'm getting the information from in terms of some of the latest that's going on with some of these cases. But I think about Stone Fultz. He was Bowling Green State University. Adam Oakes from VCU recently. They both come to mind as two students who recently died in hazing incidents. And I was reading a recent article in USA Today, and they were describing these latest events as not stopping because of COVID-19, but instead it was hidden from watchful eyes. Do you think that that is an accurate description of what has happened over the last year as we deal with COVID-19 and the pandemic?
Yes, and I'm not I'm not adverse to pointing fingers, but administrators have been under a lot of pressure and in a way that historically we've never seen before because of COVID. Just simply getting people into class, out of the class has been very, very difficult. We've seen students not be able to function normally in a social setting, and I find that to be an important part of college. Go back some years when the Gulf War occurred, the same thing happened because administrators were more concerned with all the deaths occurring overseas and kept their eyes off of it. And there was a spattering of deaths at that time. I think the awareness is back here now, but it teaches all of us, including administrators, that you have to be on guard 365 days a year. You have to have your educational programs at all times. There should have been more Zoom programs, I believe. The shoulda, coulda is not going to help with these two tragedies that that you've mentioned, and my heart goes out to the families, as I know for you also. But this is a teachable moment. But look at all the lives that have been altered by this. We may see felonies coming out of this. It's very possible, but we've seen broken lives. Living with this the rest of your life, Mike, I can't imagine. And this is the lesson that has to be learned. I can imagine what's going through the president's minds at both those institutions.
Yeah, there has been a lot of pressure, I know, on administrators, on Greek advisors. I mean, in light of the pandemic, I think about their workload that has increased significantly. I mean, the ones that I speak to, I mean, it's, we call it other duties as assigned, but I mean, there's literally Greek advisors that I'm friends with that their other duties as assigned was making the beds in the COVID-19 dorms when students were getting infected and making sure that the students had a place to live and be in isolation and not get other students sick on campus. And this is what, Greek advisors are working on. So, I think about the pressure and the added workload in departments that really don't have a lot of resources to begin with. And now you add COVID-19 response on top and it becomes overwhelming. But, I do agree with you in that we really need to be teaching hazing prevention and providing those resources every 6 months. If we haven't spoken to them in 6 months, we've never spoken to them. And I don't think that changes in a pandemic ultimately.
No, this has been a hard lesson that a lot of people have learned. And yes, to go back to your original question, I think it's been hidden in plain sight. And I think it was going on even distance type of hazing
Mhm.
pressures. Particularly, I heard with sorority members that it was done through emails, and uh, and it's got to stop.
Yeah. Now, if we put aside the past for a moment and we start to look in the future, what's your prediction in terms of alcohol abuse and hazing as we start to open campuses back up in the fall of 2021? And now we're having events and in-person meetings.
I think what we're going to see will be uh, more restrictions at the very beginning. I
Mhm.
think we're going to see Greek life as went back at Penn State and other schools under the microscope as administrators look for accountability. I think that's going to happen. If it doesn't happen, I'm afraid we will see deaths again, that we will, particularly, I'm worried about alcohol related hazing deaths. I don't know how to get it through, except to get it through that bottle exchanges are probably the most lethal form of hazing because there's trust involved and such a great amount of alcohol, a handle, which uh, which killed Stone in just minutes. And they what the undergrads don't realize is that the pledge goes from standing, maybe slurring, to collapsed.
Mhm.
And putting that person to bed is the wrongest, worst thing that you could do.
Yeah. I see it over and over again. It reminds me of kind of the families that we see within hazing chapters, where they're literally naming the families, over drinks of alcohol. This is the Crown family, and that is basically Crown Royal, and you need to drink this bottle. I mean, this is where we get into trouble, and I think it's on us to start educating, to start saying, if you see the following signs, you see families that are created, and the name of the family is some kind of liquor. I mean, this is concerning, and things that we need to start thinking about, and making sure that we're teaching, so that way we can prevent some of the stuff from happening before it happens.
You're exactly right. At the Adrian Heidemann death that was at Chico State, it
Mhm.
was a form of brandy. I forget which one it was,
Yeah.
but a form of brandy was the family, quote unquote, that
Mhm.
he was a member of.
Yeah. What more can we do to ensure that universities are punishing the students who are found guilty of hazing, and that the police and local attorneys are prosecuting these young men to ensure that it doesn't happen again?
I feel like that is my job in terms of doing the hazing death list, putting out all the articles that are there,
Mhm.
doing articles on my own, doing columns for various media. Uh, that's the part that's mine. That's the investigative reporter, that's the journalist. But in terms of the educators, which we are also, I put on a different hat there, my ex-Greek hat, I guess,
Mhm.
there is uh, to warn, to take these cautionary tales and to say it can happen to you, and actually do something risky enough, it will happen to you. And I think we don't know for sure, but let's take the Bowling Green episode. If this has been going on for 10 years or 12 years, and it often does, sometimes 20 years, the same sort of thing, what do those alums think
Mhm.
at this particular time? And again, and we've talked about this, Mike, I have been pointing my finger out more and more at the alums. They've not stepped up. They have not. The ones that have stepped up are the ones donating alcohol and money for the wrong reasons. And
Yeah.
I can ask you that a question back. What do we do about these alums?
It's a great question, and a lot of our education that you and I are engaged in, it's primarily focused on the undergraduate students. And my question is, what education is there for the alumni? And the answer for most cases is absolutely none. And that, I think you're right. I mean, it goes into the culture of a chapter. I remember one chapter in particular that I was working with that had this hazing culture. That hazing was discovered. I went in to go and work with the undergraduates, but at the same time, I said, I need all the alumni to show up. I need alumni from every year to show up And so that way, the information that we're going to talk about together as a fraternity, both undergraduates and alumni, is ultimately going to spread to all the alumni as well. And when I started talking about some of these warning signs, I started talking about some of the low-level hazing, the lowercase h hazing, and the alumni were really kind of baffled. They basically said, "I had no idea that that was considered hazing." And so I think that is what you're getting at, which is that we really have to do education for the alumni to explain what is hazing, and I think it's eye-opening for them when we have those conversations, because it's something that they had been doing for decades and they never once really considered it hazing, and so therefore they couldn't take an active role in preventing it with the undergraduates because they never saw anything wrong with it. It was just something that was done to them, therefore they do it to the next generation, and it was just passed down for decades. And I think that conversation is what's missing right
And I think we can go back to chapter 4,
now.
my chapter on mentors. Look at the mentoring that these alums can give. Look at the collective experience in business and politics and athletics that the alums have. Let's make better use of the alums, and let's get rid of the bad apples.
Yeah.
I used to believe in brother for life, but I believe in brother for life as long as you deserve it.
Yeah.
And that has changed fundamentally for me since I started writing in 1975. Maybe brother for life is not a good idea if the person doesn't deserve it.
Hmm. Tell us, what's your favorite part of the chapter? For me, it's always great to hear the author reading their chapter, because I just think it takes on a whole new persona when the author is reading it. What's your favorite part of the chapter? Can you read it to us?
Sure. And just some background. So I played baseball my entire life, and got a chance on a magazine assignment actually to play pro baseball in the Expos organization, play with an African-American team, the Indianapolis Clowns, play at age 59, vintage baseball with Ozzie Smith, the great St. Louis Cardinals player, managing the other team, and we beat him. So baseball has been very important. So let me go back to this one. The title of this section is called Disappoint a Mentor at Your Own Risk. When I was in elementary and high school, about the only thing keeping my self-esteem alive was baseball. I served as captain of Little League, Babe Ruth, and American Legion teams. And I should mention that at this age, I was expelled from a Catholic seminary to be a priest. Not in good stead with a Polish mother, I can tell you. So, unquestionably, I owed any and all successes to my first coach, Steve Banya, a one-time minor leaguer for Spokane, who saw promise in me. Long after the other players left the field for the town swimming pool, Steve hit me hundreds of grounders at first and pitched batting practice until his arm ached. Winters I sat on Steve's home Davenport to listen to his baseball tips and tales, while his wife Bernice served cookies and Kool-Aid. Steve was a one-of-a-kind mentor who gave praise only when deserved, and who brooked no respect to the game of baseball he so loved. Thus it happened at age 11, when a big, nasty opponent drove his spikes into my keds as I took a throw at first. I dropped him with one punch, as my war veteran dad had taught me during self-defense lessons. Steve pulled me from the game and sent me home in disgrace, with parting words I never forgot, even when I later sometimes ignored his wisdom. A risk all mentors understand. You let him take you down to his level.
I love the chapter. I think it should be required reading for all fraternity and sorority members, especially ones that are responsible for a new member, and that they are a big brother, they're a big sister to somebody else in the chapter. I think it really will kind of reframe what their responsibilities are and how serious that responsibility is, that we need to take it. It's not just something as like a throw in to reward somebody for doing a good job in a philanthropy or something like that. It's a serious responsibility. And I hope that all fraternity members and sorority members will take that responsibility seriously, in terms of educating, in terms of guiding, in terms of protecting their new members.
Well said. Well said.
Yeah. Very good. Well, listen, this has been so much fun, Hank. It's always a pleasure catching up with you. I thank you so much for your chapter in the book. It's an honor to have you as part of this collaboration project from Letters to Leaders. I know we're working on a second book now, and I love this journey that you've kind of sent us on. I know you talked very early about me writing a book, and to me, it was always more exciting to do this as a team project than it was as a solo project, because to me it gives so many different looks. It's a lot more fun. It's a lot more lenses to look through. And so for me, that's kind of the joy in putting out books like this is that variety that you get. It's almost like a choose your own adventure. These are books that I grew up with as a kid reading, and I enjoy all of the choices that exist in a book like this and the different lenses. So it's been a real honor, of course, working with you as always. And I thank you so much for all the guidance and leadership that you provide to us, to the team at Greek University, because I don't know where we'd be without you.
Well, and I can't wait to see the reviews that have come from this. And I know that you're hoping that the readers will just drop a note. It doesn't have to be a literary masterpiece. Just let us know. And if we didn't measure up in some way, let us know that too.
Sure.
For the next book. So I hope to end this that we will get some letters sent to you, Mike.
That would be fantastic. By all means, send the letters over. You can find the address on the Greek University website, or just email it to me, bookings@greekuniversity.org, and I'll share it with all the authors of the book, so that way they know that there are people that are out there reading it that appreciate the work, and we'd love to hear what you're doing with it. I know that some of this book is actually going to be used as a textbook, out there for some graduate school courses for student affairs professionals that are coming through the ranks. I know that it's going to be used in a leadership school that is going to be for undergraduates. So we'd love to know how you're using the book. I think all of that is great for us to know the application of it. These are things that we didn't think about when we wrote the book, but we're sure glad that it's getting in the hands of the people that can use it.
And then maybe the other is if you buy the book through Amazon, you can do a review.
Yes.
And speaking as the author of 26 books, myself and probably another 10 with collaboration, I read those reviews, and good and bad.
Yeah.
And so that's another thing that your viewers can do. If they buy the book, review it.
Yes, please go onto Amazon and give us a review. We'd love to know what you think. And that certainly helps other readers, other people that are browsing through various books that are related to fraternity and sorority life. I think it is important to get those independent reviews to see what other people think. And so far, all the reviews on Amazon have been very, very positive. So we're thankful for that. But by all means, please leave that review. I think that's important for other readers to be able to go and check it out, to make that decision. Is this book worth it? And I will tell you, for the price, the $2.99 on Kindle and $9.99 for the paperback, I think it's a fantastic bargain. So go out and get it.
Good pitch.
That's right. All right, Hank, listen, have a wonderful rest of the day. Enjoy the weekend. And I thank you so much for your time. We'll see you soon on hopefully another episode of the podcast at some point.
Sounds great. Have a great day, Mike.
Take care, Hank.